All right, let's get our crystal balls out here. Let's look into the future and let's try to predict some of the things that are going to happen with Tennessee athletics over the course of the next 10 to 15 years. A great listener topic here today. It's your Monday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Vols, your team every single day because we're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Eric Cain. We got Twitter Tuesday mailbag questions coming in for tomorrow's show, so don't forget that. But we got a fun-filled show coming up today, and we couldn't do it without our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can make every moment more, including $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet on your first purchase. That's over at on your first bet over there at FanDuel Sportsbook. Getting a topic sent in from Daniel and his daughter Sue. Shout out to Sue, future Lady Vol. I'm supposed to do this shout out on Tuesday, but I'm doing it here on a Monday, so hopefully you guys hear this. About 14, 15, 13, somewhere around there. A long time away, but Sue is going to be a Lady Vol one day, so that's exciting. We don't know if it's going to be volleyball or swimming or track and field or basketball or softball or whatever the case is, but Sue's going to be a Lady Vol one day. So shout out to Sue. We can't wait to watch you up there on the hill and support. We'll support the Lady Vols always, and especially when you're there. So shout out to Sue. Appreciate you for always listening to the show and being an everydayer. But Sue and Daniel have a great topic today about how, the current trajectory of Tennessee athletics, what's it going to look like in 10 to 15 years? We'll dive into that here in a matter of moments. Josh Heupel's offense has some serious haters from the NFL ranks, some fellow personalities maybe within this company at Locked On, and of course some publications around the Southeastern Conference. I'll tell you what I mean there in a moment in segment number 2. And then an interesting article over there from ESPN, 3 things that you're going to love about the expanded college football playoff, and 3 things that you're going to hate. Found that pretty interesting. That's going to get into it in segment number 3. Of course, at the time of this recording, I'm recording this before the regional championship for baseball on Sunday night. You guys know I cover that. It's a long night. I'll get over there about, in real time I'll get over there at about 5 o'clock, 4:30ish, and won't leave until about midnight. It's a long time covering baseball games that seem to drag in postseason play, but also with the post-game press conferences and all that and a regional setup. We'll talk Tennessee baseball on a Tuesday show, and hopefully they wrap up the regional championship here on a Monday and go on to super regionals and all that, and if so, we'll tell you exactly what all that means. So all that and more is coming up here today on a Monday show. Mailbag questions, get those in tomorrow for your Tuesday edition of the show. All right, so this is from Daniel, and Daniel wants to say, hey, my daughter's 4 years old, got me thinking about her future. She's 13 or 14 years away from any kind of college decisions, Lord willing. My question is, if you had to predict the next 10 to 15 years for Tennessee sports, what is your predictions going to be for the main sports? Big ask, I know. Maybe break it into dream scenarios and realistic expectations. No pressure, haha. Well, over the course of the next 10 to 15 years, you hope that Tennessee wins national championships every single year. You hope that Tennessee wins SEC championships every single year in every single sport, but maybe that's more or less dream scenarios. Realistic expectations are, we've done a couple shows on this here lately. It's an all-everything school. Tennessee wins the All-SEC Sports Trophy for the 3rd straight year. Did a show on how I think Danny White is the best athletics director in the country right now. So with where you are as your base floor when you're projecting ahead to 10, 15 years, you got a pretty good landing. You got a pretty good starting spot if you break it down sport by sport. Football. Yes, it is very rare in today's climate that a head football coach stays at a program for 10, 15 years. Mark Stoops is the longest active head coach in the Southeastern Conference now since Nick Saban stepped aside. Outside of him, I want to say it's, off the top of my head, I want to say it is, is it Lane Kiffin? Sam Pittman? Weren't they both 2020? Maybe Sam Pittman was 2019? Nonetheless, there's a lot of turnovers, what I'm saying. But at the rate Tennessee football is going, there's no reason for me to say right now that Josh Heupel won't still be the head coach of Tennessee football in 10 or 15 years. Now, for that to ensure and for that to happen, you've got to be making these college football playoffs. And you're at 12 teams right now. They're already talking about expanding it to 14 teams. So the expectation for me for the next 10 to 15 years is you are making the college football playoff on a regular basis. You are contending for a national championship on a regular basis. And along the way, you'll win an SEC title or two. Along the way, the hope is that you'll win a national championship along the way, right? I mean, it'd be foolish to get out here and say you're going to win not one, not two, not three, LeBron, D-Wade, Chris Bosh style in South Beach. No, I mean, I'm not foolish enough to do that, but you hope that you win a national championship along the way, right? It just takes, lightning in a bottle sometimes, or the accumulations of recruiting classes, development, and again, that one missing piece, like a Hendon Hooker, type year. Could that be this year, next year with Nico Iamaleava? We'll find out. Could it be 8 years down the line when you have a really, really good line of scrimmage and trench battle on both sides of the field, on both sides of the ball, and you have a really locked down defense? You go out and get that quarterback or that playmaker that sets you over the top. I don't know. We'll see. But the expectation in the next 10 to 15 years is Tennessee is a regular in the college football playoffs. It won't be expanded by then. It'll just be the college football playoffs with a national championship in tow. That's what I assume for football. And men's basketball, in 10 to 15 years, I would not assume that Rick Barnes would be your head coach. I do not think that Rick Barnes wants to coach for 10 or 15 more years. That's not to say that Rick Barnes didn't want to coach him right now, because I think he does, and I think he's exciting, and I think that he loves the challenge of assimilating a roster quickly during the offseason via the transfer portal. The passion's still there. The results are still there, obviously, with an Elite Eight appearance this past year. But we'd be foolish to think that Rick Barnes will still be coaching in 10 to 15 years. So you'll have a new coach. What does that culture look like? How does he recruit? How does he develop? How does he attract talent out of the transfer portal? How does that coach work with name, image, and likeness and use that into his ability? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. However, what Rick Barnes has done here at Tennessee, when he does retire, whenever that may be, some big shoes to fill, but you'll be attracting some of the better coaches. Players still want to come here. Players still want the opportunity to come here and be developed and win and go to the NBA. My hope is that whenever Rick Barnes does hang it up, whenever he retires, hopefully in a couple of years, not anytime soon, that the next coach will continue that pedigree. So for men's basketball, you hope some more Sweet 16s. You hope for some Elite Eights. In the next 10 to 15 years, I hope Tennessee makes its first Final Four. At the way this program is going right now, and with the ability to attract players via the transfer portal, I think that it's so. So I'll say a Final Four, at least one, for Tennessee basketball in the next 10 to 15 years. Women's basketball, let's get back to competing to win SEC championships. Let's get back to competing to go to the Elite Eights and go to the Final Fours. Kim Caldwell's not coached a game here on Rocky Top, so I have no clue. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, this trajectory, because I don't know. We don't have that baseline yet. But we do know we got a change in leadership, and Lady Vols are ready to start this new era of a unique upscale, fast-paced, full-court press, shooting threes. It's going to look different over there at the Food City Center this winter, for Lady Vols. But I'm intrigued to see it. Women's basketball, I hope it's just better. I hope that it's still not complacent, kind of where it's been the last 8-9 years. I hope you're taking that step. And for right now, I feel like that's as good as you can ask for, because the women's game is too good right now just to assume, we're Tennessee, we're going to go back to winning national championships. You can win national championships here, but you got to take that first step. You got to walk before you run. Let's see what Kim Caldwell does. So for me, in the next 10 to 15 years, Lady Vols-wise basketball, let's get back to winning SEC titles. Let's get back to going to the Final Four, and let's see what happens. Hopefully, both of those will happen in the next 10 to 15 years. Baseball, national championships. People will come after your coach. People will come after Tony Vitello because he's successful and he's still relatively young. It's because you're doing something great. But what Tony Vitello is building with his hands here at Tennessee is incredible, and currently in the midst of another run right now. We talk about all the accomplishments all the time, but the next step forward, and we talked about this with Tony Vitello versus Lane Kiffin a couple of shows ago, the next step for Tony Vitello in Tennessee baseball is to win the national championship. You've won SEC titles. You've gone to the the College World Series. You've been there twice. Next step is to win a natty. And so over the course of the next 10 to 15 years, as long as Tony Vitello is here, multinational championships in baseball. Oh, yeah, I'll call the shot right here. No pun intended, Babe Ruth, calling a shot. Talking about baseball here. And then in softball, kind of the same with men's basketball. Karen Weekly, I know a lot of people are upset right now because they got bounced in the Supers. Just like women's basketball, man, softball is really, really good around the country, especially in the Southeastern Conference. And it was the Southeastern Conference team in Alabama that knocked Tennessee out. But, Karen Weekly, I don't think will be potential. I don't know. How much longer does Karen Weekly want to do this? Ralph already, retired. He's, a little bit older. But, Karen, how many more years does she want to do this? And if a change is made when she retires within the next 10 to 15 years, who are you going to get? And will they continue this pedigree of excellence that has been Lady Vols softball? So for right now, in the next 10 to 15 years, I'll say they'll win it at some point. They were just in Oklahoma City last year. They bowed out in Supers this year, but they continue to knock on the door and continue to get closer and closer and closer to winning another Women's College World Series. So in the next 10 to 15 years, I'll say it, Lady Vols softball will win a natty. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, Daniel. I hope that answers your question, but with where the college landscape is, where Tennessee is with the volunteer club, where Tennessee is with current coaches on campus, there's no reason to think the national championships aren't in the future for Tennessee. And I can't wait to see how many, and I can't wait to see what sports are going to be. So that's kind of how I answer that, Daniel. Would love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. We can expand it into the mailbag show tomorrow at _Cainer and at Locked On Vols. Daniel and Sue, shout out you guys. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and being every single dayers. Hey, when we come back, Josh Heupel is a baseball player. Josh Heupel has some serious haters to his football offense. It's nothing new. We'll give you some more examples and why those thoughts are rather silly, in my opinion. That's coming up next as we continue on here with a Monday Locked On Vols. I want to tell you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you find professionals that you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get qualified candidates within 24 hours. You can hire professionals like a professional. That's over at LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that business owners are wearing so many different hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. But 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn currently for hiring. So why aren't you? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, well, they do apply. More to come here on this Monday edition of Locked On Vols. All right, so nothing new. There's always been some haters of the Josh Heupel offense. People saying that it's simplistic, it's a gimmick offense. In my opinion, again, we've heard a lot of that. Sure, you might have heard that a little bit at UCF, but when you get on the main stage and you're doing it for an SEC program and you're coaching and finding success at the University of Tennessee, a place like Tennessee, it just becomes magnified. And we hear it a lot, that narrative during NFL draft season. We heard it a ton, not this past year's NFL draft, because Joe Milton really wasn't in that conversation of the upper echelon of quarterbacks and, first, round or two quarterback. Heard it a lot with Hendon Hooker in the 2023 NFL draft. Heard it a ton when evaluating Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman. Heard it a little bit with Velus Jones the year before. And I just think that narrative is so silly. If I am a high school prospect, if I'm a highly rated 4-star prospect, a 5-star prospect, and I'm being recruited by Tennessee, I'm looking at two things, okay? Personally for me. Maybe three things if you want to count in how much money you can make. And you'd be a fool not to say that that's a factor for anybody right now. But let's focus on these two things. Number one, are you going to get me to the NFL? Will I be developed enough to be an NFL draft pick? Sure, you want to be a first-round draft pick. Sure, you want to be a second-round draft. You want to make that money. However, when you're sitting here in high school, and a lot of these guys are mature enough to be thinking this way. Some aren't, but most are mature enough to be thinking this way. You just want an opportunity, okay? Beggars can't be choosers. You want to be taken. You want to be drafted. You want a shot, all right? If I go to Tennessee, will I get that opportunity? Heck yeah. Heck yeah, you're going to get that opportunity. Just the offensive players. Just the offensive players. In the 3 years that Josh Heupel has coached here on Rocky Top, he has had 8 offensive players drafted to the National Football League. Okay, 3rd round, Velus Jones in 2022. 6th round, Cade Mays in 2022. In 2023, you had a top 10 offensive tackle in Darnell Wright. Number 10 overall. Only 9 players were selected higher than Darnell Wright, who was coached by Josh Heupel at the University of Tennessee. Sure, he's not a wide receiver. Sure, he's not a quarterback. But, the guys that block for this gimmick offense just went top 10 and made that money. I mean, my conversation is done just there, right? I mean, just look at the facts, guys. Darnell Wright goes number 10 overall in 2023. Then there's the run of 3rd rounders. Quarterback Hendon Hooker goes in the 3rd round. Wide receivers Jalen Hyatt and Cedric Tillman go back-to-back in the 3rd round. That was in 2023. In 2024, Jalen Wright is drafted in the 4th round. Joe Milton is drafted in the 6th round. So that's 8 offensive players in 3 years, coached by Josh Heupel. That is 2 quarterbacks. That is 3 wide receivers. That is 1 running back. That is 1 guard. That is 1 tackle. The only position here that has not been drafted under Josh Heupel while at Tennessee is center, because his starting center is still here, and tight end. So if I'm an offensive player, I'm sitting here saying, okay, well, he's gotten every single position almost on offense drafted since he's been at head coach. He's had 2 he's had 2 quarterbacks drafted, and he's had 3 wide receivers drafted. Oh yeah, and this West Coast, run and gun, I'm not going to run the football, offense, which is totally false narrative. That's another false narrative about the Josh Heupel offense. He's got a running back that was selected in the 4th round. So if I'm a high school prospect, I'm sitting here doing my research. I'm like, okay, well, obviously he's getting it done. His players if they find success, they're going to get paid. So that's number 1. That's number 1. Okay. That's the first thing I'm kind of thinking of is, can I get to the league? Number 2 is, can I be successful? Can I show out? Can I accumulate stats? Can I create a profile for myself? Okay. Can I be on SportsCenter? Josh Heupel's offense outside of 2023, which, it took a considerable backseat. In 2022, it led the nation in scoring. And in 2022, it led the nation in scoring and total offense. In 2021, it was top 10. So if it's a gimmick offense, if it's a simplistic offense, who cares? I don't think it is, but who gives a crap? If you're top 10 in the country, or you're leading the country, leading the nation in points scored and total offense, why wouldn't you want to go be a part of that? Your name's going to be on SportsCenter. Your name's going to be listed at every single talk show. People, talking heads like myself, are going to be, saying your name constantly over and over and over again. You're going to be making plays. You're going to be scoring touchdowns. You're going to be throwing touchdowns. You're going to be blocking for an offense that put up 50 points against a ranked team. That's what Tennessee's been doing. So if I'm developed and if I'm shining and getting my stats, why wouldn't I want to go be a part of Tennessee? Every single offense is different. And Matt said, essentially, this is kind of where I'm getting this conversation from. He said, leading up to the NFL draft, I found a Twitter comment where this person was quoting a Locked On host of an NFL team. I will leave them unnamed since I myself didn't go out and get the clip. The quote from the Locked On host was essentially saying he didn't want his team to draft any Tennessee players because they aren't real football players. Okay, again, just like Matt, I didn't personally hear the quote, see the quote or anything, so I don't know who he's talking about, but I would hate for a fellow host in this Locked On family to be so short-sighted in that regard, if that's what was said. And but anyway, I'm sure I'd love to have him on. We could talk about it, but I feel like that's that statement is beyond silly, in my opinion, if true. What are your thoughts on this line of thinking and the overall black eye Tennessee receivers from the media due to the Heupel system, the lack of development from players from the media, blah, 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 blah. Again, there's no lack of development. He's getting guys in the league. Number 2, they're going to the league in style. Number 3, they're winning and having fun. Number 4, I think that's just such a lazy narrative. There was also an article out there at Kentucky Sports Radio, KSR, from Nick Roush, and he wrote something. I didn't read the article, I just saw the tweet, okay? So, he could have been very, very complimentary of Tennessee's offense, within the article. I didn't read the article, I just saw the tweet again, because I wasn't going to spend an awful lot of time on this. But essentially the tweet was, he said, man, what Tennessee does, they do so well. They do so well, but they don't do much. And that's why Gerald Mincy is having a whirlwind this spring, trying to learn a new offense and trying to adapt to a pro-style offense here at Kentucky. I'm like, okay, well, I saw the tweet. I don't doubt that Gerald Mincy's working hard trying to figure out the Kentucky offense. I'm sure he is. I am sure he. You know who else is doing that? Lance Hurd. Lance Hurd here in Knoxville. He too is working really hard to get the terminology and the jargon and the schemes and all that here for Tennessee's offense. You know who else is working really hard this spring and summer trying to get ready for the season? Who's new in the transfer? Every other transfer in college football. Literally everywhere. Literally everywhere. It's not just Gerald Mincy, who, by the way, had to do the same thing when he transferred from Florida to Tennessee. Now he's having to do it again from Tennessee to Kentucky. You're going to a pro-style offense, which is fine. Kentucky or Florida didn't run the quote-unquote pro-style offense that you're seeing at Kentucky right now. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, again, the tweet was Tennessee does what they do so well. Agreed. Tennessee does what it does so well, but it doesn't do much. Well, I would argue that having to run an up-tempo, no-huddle offense is doing more. I think Jason Swain said this maybe on his radio show or something. I can't remember, but he played wide receiver with Tennessee when they were in a pro-style offense in the former era. And he said, like, hey, I would argue that Tennessee's receivers have to do more and have to learn more because they don't get an opportunity to sit, catch their breath, and think about the next play coming. Whatever the case is, every single transfer in America who is at a new institution is having a whirlwind spring and having a whirlwind summer because every single thing is new. Same for Lance Hurd here. Same for Javon McCoy playing cornerback. Same for Holden Stays playing tight end. Literally for everybody. So there's nothing unique about Gerald Mincy, who's already been around the block a time or two. Oh, it's just, in my opinion, and again, that's just my opinion. And my opinion is it's just the whole conversation, not just what Nick said, but just the whole conversation about this simplistic gimmick offense. It's just so lazy. It is so lazy. Do your homework. Go look at the player development. Go look at the players who have been drafted. Go look at how he's recruiting right now. Go look at the yardage of where last year was bad. Last year was horrendous. 8-4 season. The world was ending for Tennessee football coming off an 11-win season. And the offensive rankings kind of took a step back, sure. But look at the first 2 years. Top 10 with 1 year leading the nation. So do your homework is all I ask. If you want to make an outlandish statement, an outlandish comment, just do your homework. That's all I ask for anybody that's saying anything about anything, but specifically about the Josh Heupel offense, because if I'm a high school football player right now, why on earth would I not want to be a part of the Josh Heupel offense? That is my argument, and that is kind of where I'll end it there. Matt, appreciate the subject topic. When we come back, college football playoffs, 3 things you're going to love this year, 3 things you're going to hate this year and moving forward. An article from ESPN Plus. That's coming up next as we continue on here with a Monday edition of Locked On Vols. Want to say about our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook, it is America's #1 sportsbook. It is where you can make more over at FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That is $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make every playoff shot count, because right now you got NASCAR on the weekends, you got golf happening, you got Major League Baseball in the regular season, inching towards that All-Star break, just a month away, guys. NBA playoffs are happening right now, NHL playoffs. I mean, there's literally so many different ways and avenues you can put some coin in your pocket, and you can do it all over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com to check it all out and make your playoff shot count. FanDuel, it is America's #1 sportsbook. All right, so I found this article over at ESPN. It's actually ESPN Plus, and it's titled 3 Things to Love, 3 Things to Hate in 2024 about the college football playoff. And I agree with a lot of this. 3 things you'll love. I encourage you to go read the whole thing because I'm not going to read it word for word, but I'm going to give you the bullet points here. 3 things you're going to love about the 12-team playoff. Number one, the FSU incident will never happen again. I didn't spend a lot of time discussing it here on Locked On Vols because we are not Locked On Seminoles, and we were not in that conversation, but maybe we touched base on it a little bit. If I was doing talk radio still, we would have, let off with that because it's college football and it was the biggest story. But I feel like the playoff committee got it right. Now, you're probably sitting there watching or listening saying, man, you're crazy. How in the world can you go 13-0? How in the world can you go undefeated, win a title, win a conference title, and be left out of the field of play? Well, because you were down to your third-string quarterback, and you were going to get absolutely pummeled, and it would not have been the four best teams at current standing. And four most deserving teams, FSU's in. Four best teams, that's a different conversation. So in my opinion, the committee got it right to leave FSU out. If I'm an FSU fan, and if I'm hosting Locked On Seminoles, I'm outraged. I'm furious. What more can we do? We were perfect. What more can we do? We did every single thing that you look for in the criteria. What more can we do? I'd be upset. But they weren't winning no national championship. Not at all. They got just drilled by Georgia in whatever New Year's Six bowl game that was, the Cotton Bowl. And sure, you'll make the argument, well, they had a lot of starters out, yada, yada. Go look at how many guys didn't play for Georgia. Go look at when Georgia's third-string quarterback was going in the game throwing touchdowns. Just got drilled. So, but with the 12-team playoffs, that will never happen again. The deserving teams will get in too. So, in FSU's case, it would have got in. It would have gotten beat by 50, and we could say, oh, well, it got its chance. At least it got a chance. It got beat by 50, but at least it got its chance. And I do like that part of the expanded playoffs because even if you're not one of the better teams because of injuries or whatever the course is, going on, your scenario towards the end of the season, but you are deserving, you're still going to get that chance. Number two, you can lose and still compete for a national championship. Yes. How many years has Tennessee's season pretty much been over losing to Georgia or Florida in September, right? The schedule's a little bit different now, I understand that, but for so many years, you played for a chance to go to Atlanta in the month of September with Georgia and Florida. You lost one of those games, usually you're not going to compete for an SEC championship and then a national championship. Again, it's changed a little bit since then, but I love the fact that Tennessee can lose 2 games and still be very, very, very much in the heart of the conversation to be in the expanded 12-team college football playoff. You know why? Because Tennessee plays in the best football conference in America, hands down, top to bottom. Best football conference in America. It's. I was going to say it's not even close. I mean, Big Ten certainly has a conversation in there for sure. ACC's top heavy, but it's not like the SEC. So if you have 2 losses, a lot of times you deserve your chance, your opportunity to compete for a college football national championship. And now with the expanded playoffs, you drop one to Georgia on the road. You have a hiccup to Alabama that returns, a Heisman Trophy finalist and the quarterback and a bunch of different players. Or you have a hiccup on the road at Oklahoma to start SEC play. Sure, your resume will take a hit, but if you run the table the rest of the way and you're 10-2 or you're 11-1, you'll still be in the heart of the conversation. You're 11-1, you're in the college football play. If you're 10-2, you're very much in that conversation. I love that. Number 3, this will be the deepest November field the sports has ever been. Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about who's going to win the ACC, who's going to win the Big 12, who's going to win the Big 10, who's going to win the SEC. And then all those second, third tier teams, what are your records? And where are you in the college football playoff rankings? So many different teams are going to be talked about in those little shows on Tuesday nights throughout the month of November. It's going to be a blast. I mean, appointment television, ratings through the roof. Oh, yeah, it is going to be fun. 3 things you'll hate about the 12-team playoff. When your team is in the selection committee's top 4 but gets the number 5 seed. Oh, yeah, well, because the conference champions are guaranteed to get top 4 seeds. Notre Dame, if you're number 1 in the college football playoff rankings, the highest you can be is number 5 seed. Why? Because you're weak and you don't belong to a conference. It's what you get. I love that rule. But also, you could be one of the top 4 teams in the seeds or rankings, but those are guaranteed to go to the conference champions. So I like that. Number 2, I like that, but I can see why, I made the comment I like that, but also that's something that if Tennessee was in that situation, we would be fighting it for sure. Number 2, when your team is number 12 on selection day but is excluded from the playoff, again, you got automatic tie-ins. Again, there are different avenues to get to the playoffs. So just because you're top 10 or just because you're top 12, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed a spot because you got to take a group of 5 in there. That's 1 spot. Notre Dame's got to get in there if it's worthy. That's 2 spots. Your conference champions, that's 4 spots. And then where do the rest of the dominoes lie? You can be 11th or 12th or 13th and be left out of the field. And that'll be tough because your seat's got to be given up to a group of 5 who may be, behind in the rankings. So that stinks. And then number 3, when teams play each other 3 times, that means you play them in the regular season. You play them in the conference championship game, and then maybe you will see them yet again in the college football playoff. We've seen teams play each other twice on the season before. I don't think, it's never happened in the college football playoff era for sure. And certainly before that, we've ever seen a team play another team 3 times. That will very much happen. It might even happen this year, and it'll be annoying for those fan bases. So really, really good articles over there. Tons of stuff I didn't read, but those are the main points over there at ESPN. 3 things, college football playoffs, that you'll love and 3 things you'll hate in 2024. Good show today. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every single day. Hey, mailbag questions. You guys already sent me in a couple of topics I used on the show today. Keep them coming. There's plenty more. I see you. I'll answer them, but I'll put a star by them or something in the DMs. On the YouTube channel, you can tweet me, whatever the case is, easiest for you, @_Cainer. And at Locked On Vols, we'll have our mailbag show that is coming up tomorrow. And plus, we'll get you caught up in everything that happened from Sunday night's Knoxville Regional Championship with baseball. All right, guys, appreciate you for being here. Let's do it again tomorrow. This is Locked On Vols.